Hi everyone, this is an intro video about linear functions. So I'm just going to go through some of the formulas and things that you should know before you do the linear functions packet. Okay, so hopefully this is familiar. Linear functions should be reviewed, but we're going to go really heavy on the function notation as we go through this, so some things might look a little bit different. And again, that's what Pre-Calc 1 is all about, is getting used to some new notation and some messier algebra and a lot of graphs. So hopefully we've all run into slope-intercept form. Generally, when we first run into that, we see it as y equals mx plus b. The only thing I'm really going to write differently here is instead of y, we'll have f of x. So again, function notation, y is replaced by f of x, showing that we're inputting x values and outputting f of x or y values. When we're looking at slope-intercept form, we should know what both the m and the b represent. The m is the slope of the line, and the b is the y-coordinate of the y-intercept. I am going to be a little bit picky about that, especially when we're interpreting. It's really important to realize that an intercept is a point. So when I say the y-intercept is at b, I'm not being fully clear. The y-intercept is actually at 0, b. And to describe in function notation that b is the y-coordinate of the y-intercept, it's actually really nice and easy to say that. This statement right here says that b is the output you get when your input is 0, otherwise known as y-coordinate of the y-intercept. Sorry for ringing phones. Okay, slope. So next thing I want to look at is how does our slope formula look in function notation? So here it is. This should look very familiar from the previous section where we talk about average rate of change. So I've changed it up just a little bit because I don't want to get us mixed up using A's and B's when we've already designated B as our y-coordinate of our y-intercept. So I'm going to say if our function has two known points, so x1, f of x1. Again, when you see this, this is really just another way to say x1, y1. F of x1 means the y value that goes with the x coordinate x1. And then we'll have a point x2, f of x2. Again, f of x2 specifically means the y value that goes with x coordinate x2. So to calculate a slope, we need to do change in y over change in x, which is going to look exactly like this. So f of x2 minus f of x1 over x2 minus x1. And you get to determine which point is the first and second point. Just make sure that once you choose, you stick with it. So if f of x2 goes first on the top, x2 should go first on the bottom. So I would actually say this is the most important thing to me, is that you're getting used to this. When you see something that looks like that, f of x2 minus f of x1 over x2 minus x1, that immediately stands out to you as some sort of slope. So that's really, really important. Just recognition, just seeing that and going, okay, that's a y value minus a y value. That means rise. And since it's divided by the appropriate run, x value minus x value, this is in fact a slope, an average rate of change. And the reason it gets a different name is if you're talking about something linear, you will have a constant rate of change. So no matter what 2 points you use, your average rate of change is exactly the same. So we no longer need to talk about it as an average. Instead, we call it slope. The constant rate of change is the slope. So only linear functions have that nice constant rate of change. All right, last thing on the things to know list. I actually don't care if you use both slope-intercept and point-slope form. I would like your answers to end up in slope-intercept form. But if you already know point-slope form, it can be a really handy one. In Calc 1, we do a lot of finding equations for tangent lines, and I find that a lot of students really like to have this slightly quicker way to find the equations for those lines. So feel free to use point-slope form or not use point-slope form. It's up to you, but it is out there, and if you know it, go for it. I would say if you've seen point slope form before, it probably looked a little different. It probably looked like y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And this is a times, this is not function notation. So just like up above, m is the slope of your line, and x1 comma y1 would be a point on the line. Since we're using function notation, instead of writing y, we write f of x, and your y1 will be whatever the function value is when evaluated at your x1. So these have just been interchanged with their equivalent in function notation. So again, hopefully linear stuff is a review. Using this much function notation is probably new. So this should be a little bit of a mix, getting used to function notation in a familiar context. All right, I think that's it for the things to know. Thanks for watching.